I believe you have a question down here, please.
Sì. Io volevo chiedere a Francesca Comencini se
A question for Francesca Comencini. I wonder if having made the film Carlo Giuliani Ragazzo is something which changed your work, because there seems to be a shift in your filmography there. And both Francesca Comencini and Nicoletta Braschi, question for the two of you. This is turning out to be a real women's festival, so many stories of women who are victims, who are oppressed in various ways, women who seek to take revenge in their own way. I don't know if you've seen the other films, but I wonder what you think about this focus on women's stories. The film about Carlo Giuliani did indeed completely change my approach. I'd already made some documentaries in France which weren't released in Italy. The first step then was moving to documentary filmmaking, and that's something which I find really suited me down to the ground. And it's not just making that film Carlo Giuliani, I mean the fact of being in Genoa as well. While we were doing the editing, which took a very long time, it was a very positive experience. It was something which certainly changed my life. It was a film in which I found a great deal of pain, but also a great deal of strength. And there's also the question of one's age in a sense. I feel more mature now. I've learned more. I've produced these documentaries, and I think that the work I do is one where you have to go through a certain process. It takes some time. Succeeding in observing other people's lives and talking about that is something very important, and I'm beginning to realize that that's what I prefer to do. And what's very important is to observe people's life with a great deal of immediacy, not with a distance, and that's something which calls for maturity. I started off by looking at my own concerns, but through this school, one might say, slowly but surely you become stronger and feel more mature and are able to open up to others and look outside yourself. It helped me a great deal to make documentaries, and certainly this documentary, more than any other, helped me. It gave me strength and courage to continue to do things which, on their own small scale, can bear witness to something which I think is important and correct to talk about. Cinema's focus on women. Well, I'm pleased that there are so many films addressing the stories of women. Quite clearly, I'm pleased about that. I think it's important to look at these social issues for women. But I think the thing that's most important is to think about the way in which the story of a woman is narrated. And I hope that that can also be done with stories about men. I think it's possible to have the same kind of gaze, a profound gaze, on the story of a man just as you can on the story of a woman.
Here's a question down in the front. Just wait for the microphone, please.
Maciej Berlin, mein Name vom polnischen Radio.
I come from the Polish radio. Two questions. The first question is for the director. The music's very important in this film, and it underscores very well the rather depressing images, but it's also a counterpoint to that. How did your work with the two composers develop, especially the work with Teresi? The second question is, how much did you have by way of a budget? Was there any state funding, and did the trade unions participate financially as well? I'm very pleased about this question about the music. As I was saying before,
te lo spiegherà meglio la produttrice,
the producer will tell you more about it later, but as I was saying before, we've got a mini budget.
Quindi questa sua povertà per
And the
me
fact
è una-
that
è
the film
una-
was impoverished
paradossalmente una
paradoxically
grandissima libertà.
gave us a great deal of freedom.
I dischi di Trovesi
I loved
Coscia,
the
che avevo
music
in casa.
by Trovesi and Kosha, had them at home, and I said it would be fantastic if we could persuade them to write the score, but they're very well known, of course.
And
I didn't know whether they would want to get involved. They didn't know what you'd have to do if you'd had to get in touch with the record company or anything. So what I did was just send them an email. I sent an email to Gianluigi Trovesi, out of the blue in a sense, and asked him if he'd come and look at the first cut, the rough cut of the film when we were doing the editing. He accepted, and we were in the studio for 3 days with Gianni Kosha, Gianluigi Trovesi, the editor, and me, and they created this marvelous music with a sense of liberty. And that freedom made me think of 2 children. They had lots of fun in creating this music. Because their work, their vocation, their pleasure is creating music. They like the film, and they produce very simple music very rapidly in terms of the time schedule. In fact, the whole film was made very rapidly, but they had fun. They enjoyed it. So I'd like to thank them. I think that they've really made a great contribution to the film. And I'd also like to thank everybody, not just the non-professional actors. I'd like to thank the whole crew of this film. Luca Bigazzi, Massimo Fiocchi. Luca Bigazzi was in charge of the lighting, Massimo Fiocchi, who did the editing. I really had a wonderful team. It's like the Berlin Philharmonic. The best people in Italy came on board for this film, and I'd like to really express my thanks to them for that. Did you want to add something? How much it cost? Well, in the way you said it as well, it was very low cost, €200,000. We didn't have any state funding, but Rai Cinema gave part of the funding, as did Beam, the distribution company. The trade union didn't fund the project, but they helped us an enormous amount. All of the people who are, for example, extras in the film or have small roles came on board via the trade union, and they're all people who have a job and they perhaps took 2 or 3 days off holiday leave so that they could come and make the film. And it was possible to work with this enormously low budget thanks to the fact that everybody contributed, the technical crew, the actors. As Francesca was saying, we had a very special team. We have important figures in Italian cinema on board. And this is an anomalous way to make films, but it does make it possible. You know, if you have a really urgent need to tell a story, it means that you can get started without waiting until you've put all the funding together, or until you've got more funding. So like Francesca, I'd like to thank everybody. It was an important experience.